You got nice shoes on, so I had to change my shoes. So
Man,
I have nice shoes on.
they won't be nice shoes soon, man. I keep wearing them so often.
They all get old, man.
They do. You're right.
I got white shoes on, and they were white last week, and now they're not white. Because that's what happens. You wear them once, and
no, you're right.
they're no longer.
I tend to wear shoes of like decades, man. I try to. Keep.
I've had a pair of shoes for I think 5 years. Oh fuck! I'm so used to the camera being there. Gosh, give me another counter, bro. I'm so used to the camera being fucking. You talking to me? I'm talking to you, and this is talking to me, talking to you. And I got a very good friend of mine here, and a new associate in partnership with many things that we will be into. Austin Newton, my man.
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Hey, good. You?
Pretty good. I'm glad to get you here, man. I'm super excited. I wanted to get you in here a while ago, actually. I talked to Josh, which is a very good friend of yours. Your partner in crime, I like to say.
I know the guy, yep.
I learned how to pronounce his name on that episode, so that was fun.
Yeah, well, on my phone, when I listen, when earbuds are in, he calls in. It says Josh Netchley. Josh Netchley.
He said if he went to Germany, they'd say Neckley. It's Netchley.
Well, that's the iPhone voice in my earbuds saying Josh Netchley.
Oh, so robot accent.
Yeah.
Oh,
real
so
soft.
Robots have accents now.
Josh Netchley, which is cool because then I pick up and I go for Josh Netchley. It's weird, but you can pronounce my last name Newton.
It's
a normal name.
That's no, mine's not. We discussed mine how it's not normal, but I got you here, and let's talk about you more. Enough about Josh.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
man.
But you, my friend, have worked with Josh for a long time. You guys have done a lot of different style, just camera work. You've done a lot of acting.
We have
together. So kind of tell me like how did you get into acting and work with cameras and just kind of the whole scope of filmmaking and all that? How did you end up getting into all that? Yeah, man.
To go all the way back would be to say like snow day 1994, 1995, going to my friend Eli's house. His folks were cool with him watching rated R movies. Mine were not, so it was like, I'm going to watch a rated R movie, snow day. That rated R movie was Friday the 13th. And then it was like, from there, as we grew up, we were that old, so 5, 6, something ridiculous. Friday the 13th.
Watching, which one?
The first one.
The very first one? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite horror movie series. I love that.
And it's so striking to just like the 5, 6, 7-year-old mind, however old I was, watching a rated R movie, snow day, we weren't at school, and it's Friday the 13th, and then just little nuggets from there of like, now watch this, and it would be some George Romero movie, Night of the Living Dead, or it'd be The Evil Dead, and Bruce Campbell tried that stuff on, and then...
Okay, and so you got into a very specific style at first, like...
Very early on, it was horror.
Yeah.
It was gritty. It was even like Trauma.
Yeah.
And The Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
And Class of Nukem High and stuff like that, and it was like... There was an excitement. It wasn't cameras. It wasn't acting. It was just, that's cool and different.
It's the overall feeling of it.
Yeah.
It gave you as a child.
Absolutely.
That's so cool, man. So So I guess when I started watching horror movies and like that kind of stuff, I was very young too. That was my first genre of movie I considered myself to like as a human being watching films. I was like, oh man, like that's it. So Jason was my favorite of all of like the horror movies. I will say as an adult now, Freddy was better thought out, more well versed. You know what I mean? Like he had a character. I mean, he spoke.
Yeah,
he spoke. His speaking rules.
Speaking to you, and it was something that we all have to do, and we can't avoid that type of evil.
Yeah.
We all have to sleep, man.
Yeah.
And as a child's mind, that's creepy, right?
It is.
Because the creepy boogeyman's going to come get you.
And what's really funny is we're sitting here talking about how we're kids watching this stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't made for kids.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But that does warp the mind. It does capture the mind. It does create these things. So then it was like freshman year, my dude, I was walking around my entire freshman year of high school with an entire copy of George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
Just walking around with it?
I would reference it. I would look through it. I would quote lines from it in my own head.
You studied the film.
Well, I was, but I wasn't realizing that I was doing that. I just thought it was
liked it.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. And so somewhere around in there, Eli and a group of us guys, we got cameras like high 8s and VHS-Cs and stuff like that. And we started running around with those, recording just you name it.
Real guerrilla style stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just having fun with it. Anything that we could think of like, we like cops, so let's replicate cops. And then, Jackass was a thing. So it was like, let's do the thing that Steve-O and those guys are doing. And
Don't do this at home, kid.
Yeah, with the handy cam and then riding bikes into the lake and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what got you into filmmaking in general, was just kind of a couple of your friends had a camera. You guys just decided to pick it up and just go record stuff and have fun.
Yeah.
That's a really what is that? Like an innocent way to get into it, man. Like, just, you see, like, the natural, course of just seeing something. Monkey see, monkey do, man. You see some stuff, you're like, that's kind of cool. I like this.
Yeah.
How do I do this?
Yeah.
And then you go, and then you slowly take the steps to do that, which...
Right. You do. No, and it's everything too, because then it's also like you go to the movie theater and there's the smell of the popcorn and the stickiness of the cheap theaters. Your feet are just like catching on the floor, and then like early like high school dates. That's the first place you're going to with the girl or the boy or the lover, whatever, that sort of thing. So there's also all of that type of like, I want to make something maybe one day that could be seen up here and appreciated in the setting where other people really appreciate and spend their time.
Speaking of like taking a girl on a date, and like, so say like have you ever taken a girl on a date to the movie theater and you really enjoyed the film, like you thought it was like a really good, well thought out film, and then like you're leaving and when you get to like the car and she's like, that was the worst film I've ever seen. Have you ever had that happen before?
Yeah, that's the only date you go on with that individual.
That's the first and only date.
That's it.
That's
like it.
If you can't, and because you're a filmmaker, I mean, me as a filmmaker, you gotta have the same taste to a certain degree.
Well, yeah, but also there is that idea too of like, well, why didn't you like that movie?
Yeah,
let's talk about that instead of just
of course,
snub.
Which us, we're speaking on it. We shouldn't be so simple minded. We should hear out their cause of why they didn't like it. Of course,
but generally speaking, whatever that answer is, let's have a conversation about that, and then that could flatline that potential second date. I think.
Yeah, and then and that just brings up the conversation of like point of views and perspective.
Yeah.
You said something really cool one day. It was, I'm going to try to quote you exactly. It's going to be really hard to remember. You said something about how, like, me, you, and anybody else, we're all different heights, right? So we're automatically going to see from a different perspective.
Baseline, yes.
Baseline, yeah.
Yes.
So that was a really cool quote. Where do and you think of a lot of really cool, like, metaphorical quotes. You write a lot of poetry, correct?
I do, yeah.
So is that where you kind of inspired those metaphorical, like, one-liners from in your course of life? Or
I don't know. Well, it's like, where do you come up with your ideas for your shorts? Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the way the wind blew a certain way when you were seated at the traffic light or something like that. I don't know, man. The metaphor for the poetry thing, that's kind of just been the way I process things. And because it was like, I don't know, maybe I was a slower learner in school or something to that effect. And then grandmama broke it down in a metaphor, simpler, this for this. It might be that. It might be just the way I visualize things. And it's like anything else, my friend. I don't know. But I do apply that ability, I think, in my writing style to have something that could be maybe a profound or grand thought or something that we perceive as abstract and break it down and reduce it to something that's chewable, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a quote by Jim Morrison. It was went along the lines of like, to me, it's basically reference to how he looks at himself compared to how the world looks at him. It's either vice versa, what I'm about to say, but basically that he looks at himself as a clown, but also a very intelligent person. Or no, he thinks of himself as an intelligent person that fucks things up at the wrong moment every time.
Yep.
And it's going to continue a cycle of like feeling like you can accomplish things, but then just messing it up at the last moment.
Right then.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of something I want to touch on you with. So with the poetry and stuff, I kind of got a little glimpse of, a real like touchy side of you. We were doing this interview that you're gonna release through your guys' Top Pig Entertainment.
Oh,
you
yeah,
and Josh, you guys have been working on.
Yep.
Lining content up. I've been helping them a lot with stuff. It's real nice. I don't know. I'm not gonna talk about it right now. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
I know it's me talking to you. We're not gonna talk about it though.
We could talk about it whenever. Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
But you did this is where I found out you did poetry. You said a poetry about how you played his music for your father when he was passing to kind of like glide him through his last few hours. So so you writing the poetry, so you bring it into so many courses of your life. I really am inspired by that kind of stuff, man. Like you're able to bring in an emotion, and that's what film and creating is all about, is bringing out a part of you to put on the page, to let people look at and kind of judge your character by. And so it was cool to see that. How do you do that exactly? How do you reach inside you and portray that onto paper without feeling too vulnerable to where you just crumble it up and throw it away?
Well, that's loaded for sure.
It's a good, yeah.
It is a good question, and it's because
not many people can do it.
It's a tall order.
Yeah,
I
not many
think.
people can do that.
There's a certain sense. Well, first off, I think people do that a lot of times, and it's just like in the diary or in the notes app in the phone, or sometimes there's that. But it's also like, if you are in tune with your own voice enough and secure within yourself with your own voice enough, comfortable enough with that, dude, you're unstoppable. And you could put anything on that paper and lay bare. If the same is true, I believe, also with being in front of a camera and saying, I'm going to bear all. Physically, even if you want to.
Yeah.
There is that same sort of vulnerability that takes a level of security that's just it's a comfortability. Just right there. So,
and I like the word you used too, because like you could have used the word confidence, but it's more than that. It's you're comfortable in your own skin. You're willing. If somebody says something to you that you don't like, you're not going to care too much about it.
Yeah.
You don't have a repercussion from it. You're just that's cool. Yeah, move on to the you have comfortability in yourself.
That's it, man. So then if you say that and you're like, whatever it might be of physical insecurity, a scrawniness, the ribs might show, or the pointy elbows or something like that, and you're like, man, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Then if them or him or her or they make fun or poke fun or attack that, well, fuck you. That's the way it is. That's my elbow.
That's mine, yeah.
Same is true with the words. Same is true with laying bare on that. And it doesn't matter if it's that personal level stuff or if it's a fictional narrative or it's characters, something that you've written, from your mind, still laying yourself bare. If you're that confident, secure with that, poke the holes. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and like the best example I would say of that is like comedians.
Yep.
And like how they'll most of the time make fun of themselves to get a laugh out of a crowd.
Sure.
And so, and you obviously understand that pretty good too, because along with everything you do, comedy. I think I mentioned that before, maybe. But so, is it you do get it kind of from that realm, like just being able to joke about yourself? So you've kind of looked into that so much that you were able to pull out a more serious tone to it. Is that kind of where it rooted from, maybe?
Well, sure. There is that. Well, there is that self-awareness that needs to be there, but that self-deprecation of a laugh or of an acceptance, that's just neutralizing the playing field.
Yeah.
So then it says, I can take shots at me, and anything that you might have ammo-wise, I'm not worried about because I already know who I am and know where I'm at in this world, wherever. So, yeah, I think that there are those similarities. I think that the comedy is that. It's personal and it's, a communal thing to the point of that give and take of the short fat guy is able to make the short fat references, or the tall lanky guy is able to make those references.
Yeah.
It is all a part of that. It's the same vein of what's acceptable. It's also of like where you're okay, again, where you are okay with taking things, I think. And I think that there's no fault in masking things to a point of layers and clothing or beautiful poetry or prose that's a separation from who you are, or comedy of the self-deprecation or any of that. It's all a matter of different strokes for different folks. But somewhere along the line, I think that it was like maybe like the kid back row in the classroom making fun of me, I was cued into the fact that, like, look, I don't want to fucking fight.
Yeah.
And if I don't want to fight, then I can maybe joke. And if I can't joke, well, then maybe there is a certain amount of wit that could be implemented to use as a tool for that defense.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
That's the story of a lot of kids, man, too. Like I had a very similar thing. So I would, as a kid, man, so you thinking back, you always have something to say after it happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I remember one time this kid was picking on me saying I was like the worst player on the football field. And like, he said it when we were getting on the bus. And then like, I thought right after we got off the bus, I was like, yeah, well, you didn't even score a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Of course I think of that. It's stupid. It's dumb.
Yeah.
It's stupid. I was a little kid.
No, yeah.
But that easy, I could have thought of it. But because my emotions were all whirled up, because he's talking about me and I'm upset, I didn't take that second to be patient and use that moment for my own purpose and gain.
Sure.
Which that's a good, I think, example of kind of
right.
that, you know what I mean? So is that kind of where you, I don't know, just, I guess most people, experience those kind of things as kids, unless you are the bully, I guess.
Yeah, I guess unless you are the bully. I mean, bullying is like a hot ticket item. It's a phrase that's like, used today, and there's a certain amount of acceptance and a conversation that exists in the world right now that didn't necessarily exist even 5 years ago. But like bullying, man, I think that to deal with just like, man, being a kid sometimes is just weird.
It is. It's
being
very
a
strange.
Teenager is odd.
Because you're learning. Being a young adult is odd.
It's all
it's all weird.
There is no rule book to any of it, so it's all a matter of like. finding that spot where you find it acceptable to navigate shit.
They just got to make a Life for Dummies book, and I'll buy it and just read it, and I think I'll be fine.
Who is the they that writes that?
I don't know. Is there an author name that we could find on a book somewhere?
I don't know.
I'm sure.
I think that there.
Or do you think there's different people that write the different book for idiots?
Yeah.
So you think there's like expert idiots?
Well, it would be like tribal. It's like, who do you align yourself with philosophically, ideologically?
Oh.
That's the person that's writing the volume of books for your people, or her people, or his people. Or
so
I don't know. How does that work?
Would
it be like McGraw-Hill? They would be penning that?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know.
I would like to know that answer. Someone could research that for me. I have a computer here, but I don't feel like looking it up.
If Dr. Phil writes that book, I won't write it.
God, I wonder what he's doing now. Is he still locked up? Where was he locked
I don't know. Is he on television still?
Is television even exist nowadays? Because we live in a world that's moving so fast that like every company has a streaming software or a streaming platform now. We as creators, we can just drop our stuff on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, anything for free, and anybody can watch it. Not saying like everybody does, but they can. And that's how accessible everything is.
Sure.
It kind of just brings the question. I'm kind of curious, like, what do people, what kind of content do people feed themselves now? Like, as content, me and you are content creators. That's a good question, I'd say, for us. What are people watching? Like, you have these big television platforms that are still up and running.
Sure.
But it doesn't seem like the youth or even millennials are using those network televisions to watch stuff, except for, I'd say, sports or even like there's a couple television
There's
events.
like the Peacock network that has their own streaming platform now. And then, of course, like HBO, and they're a massive entity with the streaming services. Streaming is where it's at, really. I don't know as far as like basic cable or like even couldn't tell you what's on MTV these days.
No, I have no clue. But I can tell you what my favorite whatever is doing in their living room right now.
Probably. Yeah, for sure.
So that's what's crazy too, is like, I'm talking about us as content creators dropping stuff on YouTube, Facebook, people that are like famous dropping just everyday content for people to look and view. So it's just, there's so much. So there's so many avenues for people to watch things. I'm just so curious as to like what people mostly are they still watching television? Are there still more people watching TV every night than there are going to YouTube, or are there more people on YouTube or on the streaming softwares?
That's a tough one. I mean, everybody has their cell phone, their smartphone.
Yeah.
And
so, all those things I just named, you can get as an app.
As an
app. On those
cell
phones.
And we always have that. So you're taking your morning, you're moving your bowels or whatever, you're pulling out your phone and you're looking at it, you're watching a YouTube video or man, I don't know what that is. I don't know. So it would be like in the day, it would have been like the Nielsen ratings, right?
Okay.
So it was
I remember
to keep track of who was, how many households were watching each whatever program.
Yeah.
I don't know what that equivalent is
now
today, and I don't know. I'm sure everything's data driven, so I'm sure that that's like being tracked.
You calculated some sort.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I just kind of started wondering about, because like as content creators, what are people watching?
Yeah,
there's so many, and it's getting more basic. I've realized too. Like it's getting simpler. Instead of more, like, think about the 80s. Big hair, fireworks, fire, all these big shows, big arenas, all that kind of go about. And then now it's like condensed into people with their ear pods in, talking on a very square 480, pixel.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like, it blows my mind because the things that could be getting made right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that there's room on the table as far as like the art and content and everything that's being created and formed and everything beyond, like, set aside COVID and the pandemic and all of that stuff, set aside all of that and say this is a normal world. I think that all of that exists. There's content for television for the television viewers. There's content for the YouTubers, for the the big performances, the live, bigger than life, larger than life shows. Those still also exist, and there's room but then also that condensed, smaller, like the NPR Tiny Desk series and all that. That's really, or the earbud, or at home watching your favorite musician in front of their fireplace or whatever. These are intimate. I don't know. It's just it's fun living in the future. I know that because everything's now and today, and we
right in your face, man. Right, it's right in your face. Like me and Caden did. We did a Zoom. No, it wasn't Zoom. It was a Skype call.
Yep.
We did a Skype call for another podcast. I Get It. It was Mike and Nick Heffron. They're cool. I'm gonna introduce you to those guys. I'm not sure if you've met them yet, but real cool guys. They're real talented people. They do creating a lot. Mike's a content creator. Nick's a musician. Mike's a musician too. But
I've seen that Mike.
Yeah.
I want to meet him.
Yes.
He looks charming as all get out.
He is.
It's the subtleness with his eyes.
Yeah, and
he sucked me in with his eyes. I'm sold.
It's the eyes, Mike.
It is. That's a true statement, man. Awesome. Don't even know the guy.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. He's doing good at like really creating content, putting it out there, and just like you say, putting yourself out there, being trying to be what you want to be, and push that as your character and your content as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so that to me is the secret about anything. Whatever you want to do, go do it, right? So it's like, yeah, go do it. If you don't know how to do it, keep doing it, and then you'll figure it out in time.
Yep.
So with the writing stuff, Will, here was my secret. Don't know anything about any of that stuff. I'm just going to write.
Yeah.
I know if I write every single day, and I said this to a point, like, it sparked. I worked out of prison. I didn't like working as a prison guard. I'm like, what do? I don't know what I need to do. I'm going to write at least 15 minutes a day. And this was a promise I made to myself 2008, 2009. And I've done that. I've since increased that amount of time that I'm writing every day.
Oh,
and it doesn't matter if it's
on the phone,
pen to paper.
You're constantly writing.
Yeah. Pen to paper has been my most, like, there's notebooks for a closet filled with notebooks, my friend.
You open the door and it falls on you.
It's a fire hazard,
That's how he finds you. He's covered in books.
That's it. Just like, what is this? This is the diary of a madman.
So like you said, you worked at a prison. You worked as a guard.
I did.
And so just cycling through that, just like, did that just kind of really just set your mind up where you're like, all right, something needs to change, and I need to write. That you just found yourself just writing, and was it just poetry first? Was it script writing, like story writing?
Both, yeah.
So just everything
during
at
that
once?
period is when I first wrote my first script, and it was called 20 South. It was about a guy named Brian Jensen. It was a silly story, but yeah, I would sit on shift, a lot of free time when I wasn't making my rounds, and I would write about that. I would write about whatever. And yeah, it would be prose or poetry. It would be scripting things. It would be trying to work with my friends on the weekends, Josh and those guys, always doing different things with Next TV Studios and the various bands in the community and stuff like that, as far as the video side of things. So it was trying to keep up with that type of stuff, but also, yeah, it needed to be an escapism that wasn't the bottle. It wasn't the BS. That was a bad road. So, yeah, man, it was flexing that and staying sharp with that, because it's also a matter of working with your resources and what you have. And that includes your skill set and your, you can almost always carry anywhere with you a pen and a piece of paper. You can find a scrap of paper in your wallet.
Which at this time, what year was this when you first started writing?
Yeah, well, writing for however long. So, but like being committed to it, would have been when I was working at the prison, 2008, 2009.
So that was at a time before like cell phones were really popular, correct?
Yeah, man. It was.
You couldn't just write your notes down on a cell phone,
right?
So you did have to carry a pen and a little piece of notepad around and write this stuff down.
Yeah, if you wanted to, for sure.
I'm assuming you did that a few times, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. There are tiny notebooks. A part of that stack of notebooks I was telling you about are going to be a bunch of tiny notebooks, the small composite that just fit into your breast pocket.
Yeah.
That also work really well if you're working in a prison, when you gotta like play the cop and pull out the notebook and take your little note.
So you had a mixture of notes from your work and little doodles of ideas that you would have throughout the day.
Yeah.
To write that little 10 minutes that you wanted to get in, because you set yourself a goal.
That's
correct?
right.
So that's something I love to talk about, man, because everything that people do is a decision.
Yep.
Everything is a decision you make. You decide if you want to lay in bed for an hour or if you want to wake up 15 minutes. Get up in 15 minutes. You just woke up, you either got an hour, you got 15.
That's it.
You can stay on your phone or you can get up. You make a decision if you want to drink some coffee.
You do.
That's a decision. You might feel more like shit if you're a coffee drinker in the morning, but that's a decision that you make to take that in.
Right.
You make a decision to drink alcohol. You make a decision to go for a run or work out. These are your step-by-step life choices of what you're doing with your life.
Yes.
You may think that you're not that person, but you can quickly become that person like that. In a snap of the finger, and next thing you know, boom, everything can change. I would like to say, and I would like to bring this in the right way, but you've experienced a drastic life change before. I have myself too. Mine was more elongated, but not nearly comparable to the story we're gonna try to tell. But I would just like to get on, so making decisions in life. At what point when do you find yourself getting lost in bad decisions, I guess?
Man, there's this weird thing that happens growing up where I grew up of like, you graduate high school and then you have a couple choices.
Yeah. Small town, linear paths. You see your friends get married. You see the rest go out to the bars. And then a couple that kind of get their careers going. They figured their stuff out. But it's far in between.
Yeah. And none, and it's all good. Whatever you want it to be. Yeah. Right? But I think that there's the understanding of self and the self-awareness that we were talking about a while ago. I think that there's an importance to that. And you gotta identify with what you identify with and who you identify with and just run with that, right?
Yeah. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Yeah. I think that that's true. I do. I
believe that that's 100%. Yeah. We are very easily influenced. Human beings' minds take everything. Monkey see, monkey do.
For sure. Yes, absolutely. So you have with me somebody that felt a little bit awkward growing up where I grew up because, like I said, I like the video guys. I like the film people, the nerdy, oddballs, whatever you want to. It's all, but you feel weird with it. growing up where I grew up. So there's that pull, that push inside. And then early on, you get put into a position where you go to work at a prison, and it's not the environment you need to be in. You shouldn't be in that. That's not conducive to anything or anyone, like positivity. It's such a negative environment. It's a negative. So
especially if somebody growing up that's different like that necessarily doesn't, like you said, you're not a fighter. You don't want that kind of commotion and drama in your life. So to be in that position, that kind of job, I can see why that would make you feel indifferent.
Well, it's weird. So it's like the first fight I was ever in was when I was 20, 6 months into the job as the prison guard. Guy slipped his cuffs. We fought for 1 minute and 47 seconds. Yeah. There's a film. There's a video. There's a camera recording of that, and it's all documented.
Imagine that. I just had Sean Asher on, and we watched him fight, which he has a lot of recordings of him fighting. So I couldn't imagine you watching yourself fight for 1 minute and 47. That was your first fight. It'd be a weird experience, man.
I'd show him that fight, man. I like my chest swells thinking about that because I'm 6'3", but like, nothing. Still, even then, maybe a little bit, like because there was workouts that needed to happen, different things you got, but like. Yeah, man, totally pull a hockey move on this guy. He's swung on me. I'm trying to pull. He's a big dude trying to pull me towards his cell. Don't know why. One can only imagine.
Yeah.
But minute 47 seconds. I'm told to get off the range. Whatever happened. But because of that and the negative environment and spending time with coworkers and different things like that.
Influences.
Yeah. You're 20, you're 21, and we all know what happens in this country when you turn 21. You're able to buy the booze, right? So then 20, always the youngest guy in my group of friends. So 19, 20, I'm drinking. I'm drinking when I turn 21. I'm drinking when, and it was just on. And it was so that I could handle with the madness of like going into work as a prison guard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a prison
guard. I'm tough. Yeah, I got to put a tough demeanor.
I'm not Austin, but I'm Newton.
Yeah.
You're Newton.
Yeah.
That demeanor, that persona.
Yeah.
And you felt that. It was, you got to wear your hat in the chow hall in case something kicks off and you're dead. They know how to identify you.
Yeah.
You're working a patrol car. You're asking the other officer who you're relieving what to do because you've not worked that post. And he points to the shotgun hanging in the cruiser and says, if you see any of those fuckers on this side of the fence, you pull that off the rack, point it at them, and pull the trigger. That's a weird thing, man.
It is. That's very weird, man. Especially, I can imagine it.
Yeah. So then you start, you seek that escapism, right? In the bottle. And then, bad decisions start to get made, my friend.
Yeah.
Very long-winded answer to get to that question.
Well, and it deserves, a good representation of where you're coming from because as the story goes, diving into the bottle more and like living in this very pressured lifestyle, it ran you down a road of a couple bad decisions, which led to, and this can happen to anybody. This is any person thing. Any person that can take one night, drink a little too much. You did that one night.
I did.
If you would like to tell a little bit of the story, how you'd like to tell it, and just how that particular moment in your life just drastically changed everything that you decided to do, and turned you into this person that we now see sitting in front of us.
Yeah, man. Well, and it sure did that too, man. Drastically, night and day difference.
Yeah.
For real, in a true sense. March 29. 6 years So the March 29 of 2021 would represent 6 years. So we minus 6 years from that, 2015.
2015, yeah.
That's when this happened. Had just recently moved to Cincinnati area, drinking outside of my house. I had tried to stop drinking, and I did a good. It was a very valid attempt.
Oh, okay.
3 months I stopped drinking, man.
Dude, that's so fucked up, man, because that's how most of those stories go, man.
Yeah.
It's just like you're trying to get away, you feel bad for yourself, you're trying hard though, and then you keep slipping back in, and then that one time, that relapse moment.
Well, it's on, and then it's like it doesn't matter because there was that period of 9 months of not drinking. So there is a moment of some kind of sobriety where it's just like you're cleaned out. And so you're trying to drink at the volume or level that you were 3 months back or whatever. So there's also that of like your body is, but I've heard of that a bunch of times myself.
You ever heard Bradley Noel's story? I'm not, and I might be wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I know, he was sober off of heroin for, I don't know if it was a few years or a few months, but I think it was about 2 years because he had a kid. And so he focused on that. And then he went back to it and ended up doing around the same amount that he would do 2 years ago. And he, passed because of an overdose. Yeah. So similar, that's a very reoccurring story when it comes to drugs and alcohol and stuff like that.
It absolutely is. So, so I'm outside my house. I'm urinating outside of my house. Done it a million times.
Yeah, right? I'm sure.
Just so happens police officers cruising by the house, patrolling the neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. They stop. They see a guy that's obviously stammering, stumbling, those sorts of things. And I cannot articulate, I live in this house. And,
man, so that's
yeah, man, and as it were, I butt dialed my sister. My oldest sister heard the conversation with me and the cops and the profane things that I said, completely dogging them and do this and rigga fragga frigga, and I was pissed off and they were pissed off because I was some intruder, they thought, you know, so, but yeah, man, I get arrested that night. I go to jail. My mom and my sister bailed me out 36 hours later. And it's like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, because you don't remember. Yeah. I'm assuming. Yeah. So you don't see it as, you're just like, wow, that's weird. How did I end up in this situation? But as you were saying to me when you iterated the story, how prospectively, bring that back, everyone looks at the world prospectively. Everyone looking in on your situation did see parts of the story that you didn't see too. But so now you're trying to figure out, they're trying to figure out, it don't look good. So you had to deal with these different running opinions of what happened that night.
That's right.
That's just that's
a tough one to bargain for, Will, because it's like your mom, your sister, and you standing there, you're getting freed from the joint, and you're like, Mom, sis, I don't know. I screwed up and I don't know, and I need to make this right. And if you're going to be honest about it and you're deciding that that's the choice you want to make, you do that.
And so throughout your life, there's been keys to, so when this moment happened, you had keys previously. You were talking about when you were working at the prison, how you decided, I'm going to pick up a pen and piece of paper and write every day to get better at this and do what I want to do with it. So when this moment did happen, you took those parts of your life that were those moments and really keyed those in to take steps towards your real goals in life.
Right.
And so what place are you at now when it's being 6 years later? And like, how are your relationships with people now after beating something like that and dealing with a situation like that?
Yeah, well, there's in my mind, there's this period of like people who knew me before. And there's people that knew me after,
Yeah,
right?
I'm a person that knows you after.
Right.
Yeah, which I've always had a very high opinion of you.
Well, thank you.
Very
my
well
friend.
spoken person, very creative mind. You took all those things from those years ago and you did stick with them.
Yeah.
And you can tell. You can tell that. And I mean, you can and I didn't have a situation, like I said, happen like that. I did have some little health situations that I kind of started focusing on my body and mind more.
Yeah.
But just looking back at me a few years ago and the way that I used to just speak to people, like I used to talk like this and look down and talk real quiet. But now I'm like, I can articulate and look at people
there's that.
with a more, with more confidence, I guess.
Sure.
I'd say comfortability. You would say.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a cool. I wanted to get you to tell a little bit of that story because it is a good story, man. It's a good learning story for people that are still dealing with those kind of demons, that they can, and it's not always drinking, man. I mean, it could be food,
any of
it could be, it could be you're using steroids or something, like anything, like stuff you put in your body can affect you, but it's more about your mind state to it.
Yeah.
Can you really handle what you're doing to yourself?
Yeah.
And can you take the steps to actually get away from it and make it better?
It's a tough one.
It is.
Some can and some cannot, and it's not a matter of ease or difficulty or anything like that, or even making up your mind to do something. Or
everyone lives their life differently.
Exactly.
You got to find it out yourself.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's a matter of like what you want for yourself, and what I wanted for myself was not to be. So I did quit the prison at Subway. I did go up to New York and I taught up there for a few summers and did a lot of cool stuff, a lot of interesting things between the prison gig and moving to Cincinnati. But I was drinking. And so to answer that question about the relationships and this is that it changes it. And if you are deciding, if you are a fish, if you are, for me, I fancied myself to be like a Hemingway. It's like, well, that's how you write the series.
Yeah.
And that's how you get good and vulnerable. And to a point, I would argue that was true.
Yeah.
And that's what got me in trouble. For me, I wasn't able to stop, and I was doing it like, man, everyone around me probably knew I was drinking a lot, but not everyone knew that I was drinking like when I'd go home at night and still drinking, or in my car, or down in the, there was a point in time where I loved to hike, my friend. I loved to spend time in the woods. And there was a point in time when I would go to enjoy the time in the woods and still have 2 or 3 or 4 tall boys in my backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's kind of like double dipping. I don't need one escape for the other escape. And then it's like, it didn't make any damn sense.
Because then it turns into you're bored doing everything because you're always partying and drinking. You're always doing one of the things when you're doing all the other things. Yeah,
and then you're looking to cut out of the things that
you're doing because there's not enough time to get drunk and party. Yeah, I've been in that line before, man, and it's a balance. If you're gonna dabble in it, you got to balance it. But everyone's life has different experiences, and that's where we gotta learn from our own experiences.
Yeah, man, you're right.
And that's dude. And I think that's a good way to really end it, man. Because it's what you gotta do, man. You just gotta move on sometimes. But awesome, man, dude. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you, Will. Thank you.
Huge fan of everything you do, man. I'm super excited to work with you in the future, man.
These collaborative efforts are going to be fun. I'm super looking forward to them.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're gonna get you back. We're gonna get you on with Josh.
And I'd like let's do that. And I'd like for you to introduce me to that dreamy Mike.
Oh, this one?
No, Mike Heffron.
Oh, yes, Mike. Yes, I will introduce you to Mike. You and Mike will meet. Will meet.
Yeah,
he's dreamy. I agree.
Yeah, man.
I agree. He's a dreamy boy.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man.
Thank you for having me as your guest, my friend.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
This has been Talking to Me, Talking to You. You guys have a good one.